As far as we know, an investigative grand jury is still underway in LA while they are being presented evidence by prosecutors in order to hopefully secure a subpoena or evidence or something more as it pertains to the homicide of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. I'm Lauren Conlin, and welcome to Los Angeles Magazine's Pop Culture, Scandal, and Crime News Daily podcast. While I haven't spoken about this case in about a week. I'm not looking to sit here and say bombshell information, major twist here, major twist there. I want to outline some things that I don't think that I have necessarily said on this podcast before because I do a lot of commentary in a bunch of different places, and I have to really understand that not everybody goes to those different places to hear the commentary. So, with that being said, I want to keep this case top of mind. I don't want anyone to forget about it. And I know that can be very difficult as the news cycle continues to spin, right? We've got the awful Reiner situation. We've got Epstein files, those continuing to be dropped by the DOJ. But at this point, Celeste, from what I am told, and not only the person that I mentioned last week on this show, but by other sources as well, it doesn't look like law enforcement is close to making an arrest yet. And while I am very concerned, very frustrated, I guess I understand it to a degree. If they don't have anything, then they don't have anything. But I am baffled at this point, genuinely baffled at how they don't have anything to make a homicide arrest here. And something that Steve Fisher posted on his Twitter, I'll get to that in a second. I have said this, and this is where I'm starting to get a little concerned. But before that, there was news that Robert Morgenroth, who is David's tour manager, and he is the GM of Mogul Vision, he was on the stand in front of the grand jury for 3 days. This was reported, and I am shocked that more people did not react the way I did to that. And maybe they did, but I missed it. And again, I'm not saying, oh, I'm so special that I reacted, the way you're supposed to react, but 3 days for one witness on the stand. And look, I don't know how this courtroom operates. Is it 9:30 to 5 with a lunch break and minor breaks? Or when I covered the Diddy trial, we did about 9:45 to 3 p.m. with small breaks and a lunch break. But either way, one person on the stand is an extremely long time. That is a lot of questioning. I haven't heard thus far anyone else being on the stand as long as Robert Morgenroth, which really makes me ask, what did he know? What does he know? And there were the TMZ reports that he walked out. He told his lawyer that the prosecutor really got on him for not calling the police with the information that he had, which, we don't know what that is. And it involves Celeste, but we don't know if he didn't call the police about an alleged relationship. We don't know if he didn't call the police about possibly her death, which, look, I don't think it was about the latter. I have a feeling that he maybe heard a rumor or got wind from somebody else in the camp, like, hey, that girl looks young. Oh, by the way, she is young. She's a minor. And possibly Robert Morgenroth was like, well, that's none of my business. I just want to keep the tour moving because it's so successful and I see dollar signs, whatever. I have to ask myself again, he must have known more than Josh Marshall. I was covering this case pretty early on, and I did have a few direct messages exchanged with Josh Marshall, but it was mainly to clear the record about something, about an alleged email pertaining to Celeste that Josh said he never received. And in turn, he had written on this TikTok video it was a Girl Town USA's video that he didn't really have any contact with David. And I was like, wait, that's kind of weird. Usually a manager and an artist, they do have contact, but it sounds like Robert Morgenroth was the main day-to-day contact. So, Josh Marshall, everything he said is most likely true at this point, that he didn't have a ton of communication with David because somebody else did. So again, I am just sitting here like, dude, that's an incredibly long time to be on the stand. What kind of questions were they asking him? I mean, really. If you have any thoughts on that, please drop it in the comments, just the questions you think that they were asking. I do want to go over this at some point, and I want to bring in either Garagos or another attorney to sort of surmise what more they could have been asking. And I mean, I will get to Steve's post in a minute, but just piggybacking off of that, I had said also that I felt like the medical examiner's office, they had her toxicology report back. They had possibly some information as to how she died. Now, it's possible that they were unable to determine her cause of death conclusively because her body was in such a poor state. However, that doesn't mean that you can't rule the manner of death a homicide if the cause of death is deferred. So I think that they while they may not have, again, conclusively what happened to her, I think they have enough information that they didn't want to be released to the public because they didn't want any additional speculation. For example, the whole report that her body was frozen by TMZ. I mean, again, I think we can all surmise that her body was not frozen upon being discovered in the Tesla, but frozen at some point due to tissue being tested, molecular tissue being tested. Well, someone in the Emmy's office had to leak that. And clearly, when it was leaked, I mean, that was a diabolical discovery. That was some diabolical movement in the case that really caused the public, obviously including myself, to go wild with speculation. So yeah, it's my understanding. I would think that they wouldn't want anything like that released because of that reason. Now, Steve asks some questions about this. Let me pull up his Twitter right now. I'm so sick of this stupid cold I have. Forgive me. It doesn't sound as bad because I'm taking this it's not an ad, but this Sinex by Vicks. I have to say it's much better than Afrin. Okay. All right. Here's the post. Steve says, I strongly believe that the cause and manner of death have been determined and that the medical examiner's investigative report is complete in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case and has been since November 20th or 21st. He based this off of just prior reports on other deceased individuals. Although it has been reported that the court denied LAPD's first request for security holds on the medical examiner's files, I believe that reporting is incorrect. Okay, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I don't know. Security holds are not requested from the court. They are made directly by the requesting agency to the medical examiner's office by email and then evaluated internally. In its press release, the medical examiner's office stated that it denied the initial request on September 15th. I am confident there was an understanding that once the cause and manner of death were determined, likely the 21st or 20th of November, LAPD would be notified and given a specific window, likely 24 to 48 hours, to seek an ex parte court order to seal the files. Upon this notice, I believe LAPD then went to the court seeking to have the files sealed, since their earlier request for a security hold had been denied because the Emmy's office did not believe a lack of transparency was justified. I could see that. Fine. It's also important to note that LAPD stated in its own press release that sought the court order only so detectives could learn details of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death before the public and not to undermine transparency. But if detectives have now received that information, shouldn't the documents be unsealed? I continually hear it said, quote, Things have to be kept completely secret so it doesn't jeopardize the case, but nobody ever explains how it jeopardizes the case. Either a person is guilty or they are not. If they are truly guilty, then you cannot overcome the evidence. Attached is a screenshot from the LA County Medical Examiner's own policies and procedure on security holds. This is my belief. I don't have any insider knowledge about this. Okay, I just want to break this down because I do agree with some of it and I disagree with some of it. I feel like it's not as simple as either a person is guilty or they're not. If they are truly guilty, then you cannot overcome the evidence. Well, that's not true because there's been, of course, cases in the past where there's not enough evidence to convict the person. And again, that's why we're here, I feel like, in the first place with the grand jury, because there's not enough evidence available that will conclusively convict someone. I mean, again, Scott Peterson, that was mainly circumstantial. I felt like there was overwhelming evidence there, even though it was circumstantial, but still there's doubts there because there's nothing tangible. So I do disagree with that. I also disagree with the fact that I think he feels like a cause and a manner of death were definitely determined. I think, yes, that could be possible. And I don't know if he means this, but I think it's very possible that that cause of death could be deferred or undetermined. So I think with that being said, that's why I think the LAPD is being so secretive about this, because if you start to put out too much information, or again, the suspect or suspects start to see that you're onto something, and maybe this second or third suspect doesn't think that they're going to get caught, if they hear something like this, maybe they'll flee. Maybe they'll do something. We don't know. But I am in agreement that I do feel like the medical examiner's office has a very strong feeling as to what possibly could have happened based on what they have found with Celeste's body. So with that being said, I just want to keep this on your feed. I want to keep this in the news cycle because I do want to see justice for this little girl, Celeste, because there are so many little girls out there like her who, without saying too much about her home life, because I wasn't there, I don't know, but it seems to me that she was dealing with a lot. So again, my heart goes out to her, and I still pray for her family. I pray that they get justice, and continue to follow this case right here on Los Angeles Magazine, on our YouTube, as well as our website, lamag.com. I'm Lauren Conlin. Thanks for listening.